Hey guys, Jordan here from VFX Vault again, and today we're just going to do a quick little tip tutorial on how to negate rotation. So you can see we've got a little sprite here that we're spawning just off of our character, but as we move around it's rotating with our character. So this might be something that you want, but then again it might not be. So there's quite a few different ways to sort of solve this. The first way would be once we've attached our system, so we've just got a simple little particle system here, quickly go over it. We're just spawning one particle and we're spawning it with a position offset of 100 down the X in the world. So it's just whatever way our world direction is, it's going to spawn 100 units. So if we turn here and just wait for it to restart, and give it a few seconds, wait for it to restart the system. And you see now it's spawning 100 down the X, but it's still locked to our character's rotation because here in the blueprint, when we've attached it to our character, we've got the rotation here set as relative. We can set it to world. So this is an absolute rotation in the world. So that means this child component, or the Niagara system here, isn't going to rotate with our character as our character rotates, or whatever we've parented it on, its rotation is going to be absolute. So whatever its rotation is, it's going to stay. So if we come in and we play that again, now you can see as we rotate, it's not inheriting the rotation, so we're negating the rotation. So there's a few other places where we might need to set something like this. So the other place is, next, let's try and do the same in sequencer. So I'm going to start again from scratch, and we'll just save this and we'll drag this into the level, because there's a little bug that I found that if you drag this into the sequencer, then we try and change the rotation to absolute. If we save that and say play and then stop, and then it just sets it automatically back to relative. So how we can get around this, just a little trick I found while I was recording this, it kind of tripped me up a bit. So we can drag it into the world, we can set it to absolute rotation, and then we can drag from here our outliner into our sequencer, and we can go attach. So let's attach it to our cube. And now, so it's attached to our cube. Make sure we zero out the position so it's right on top of our cube. You can see it's on our cube now. I'll just drag it here and we'll go play. So you can see now it is not inheriting the rotation of the box, which is good. And again, if we did want to inherit the rotation of the box, we can just change it back to relative. So we go play and it should, and you see, inherit the rotation of the box and rotate with the box. So one last thing, let's say we have now a particle system. So we're just going to hide this from now. We'll close the sequencer and it should go away. So we'll save this. Next we're going to, let's say we have one particle that we want to rotate and one particle that we don't. So there's a few ways we can set it up in Niagara. So I've got one that I built here earlier. And again, there's nothing special about these. I'll go over these. It's just particle system bursting one particle. So we've got it on infinite 1 second loop. And this one isn't. This one is not in local space. So we're sampling a skeletal mesh. We're attaching it to its parent. So remember, this is the same particle system that we're attaching to our parent here inside of our blueprint. And we can set it back here to relative, and we can save that. And now we can have this particle. Remember, we have our sample skeletal mesh, so it's sampling the skeletal mesh. We've just grabbed the pelvis bone here and we've set it to rigid, and we're just offsetting it 50 in the Y. So if we isolate just this one, save, and we play, now you can see this one is not inheriting the rotation of our character, of its parent, because we have set it to just relative rotation here in the blueprint, and down here we're setting it to 50 offset and Y in the world axis. So it's just pushing it out in the world axis along Y, and every frame, because it's in the particle update, every frame it's just updating that position. So if we quickly change that to local, you would see now, if we play, that it is rotating with our character. So we can come back and we'll set that to world. So if you want, say, one that is and one that isn't, we can isolate these two now, or we can turn off isolation because those are the only two enabled. And the exact same emitter, not in local space, but down here on the skeletal mesh, we're setting it to offset in front of our character in the forward Y axis, and it is now in local space, which means it's inheriting the rotation of its parent. So you can see now one is rotating and one is not. There's one more thing I want to show you guys, and it's a problem that I see in game dev quite often. You've probably seen it in some of the few games that you've played here and there, is when we rotate our character, if we've got an orbiting particle like this one, sometimes when we rotate our character, it's inheriting that rotation as well. So it might be a little bit more tricky to figure out just because we're using rotations. I'll just quickly go over how we can solve this. So again, we can do the same thing where we have world we have an absolute rotation. We save this, we compile that, we come in, we play, and now you see it's not inheriting the rotation of our character. But for whatever reason, let's say, we want this one to inherit the rotation and this one not to inherit the rotation. So if we, but then you see because we've got our system still in absolute rotation, then it's not turning with our character. So let's say we want the white one to turn with our character, but the red one not to turn with our character because it's spinning, right? It's spinning around our character. So we can come over, we can do a few things. We can change it back to, let's say, change it back to relative rotation. So we go back to relative on the particle system that's attached to our character, relative rotation, and then we come in and we play again, and then we've got the same problem again. Now our one that we want to rotate with our player is rotating. The one that we don't want to rotate, that our spinning one, that is inheriting the rotation, you see it's spinning really wildly as our character turns. So one other way that we can fix this is we can use transforms. So remember, on the rotate around point module, we have the rotation axis. So the x-axis and the y-axis. So it's rotating on the x around the y, if that makes sense. If not, we'll have more tutorials in the future going over rotational stuff, but for now, just a quick easy fix for this problem is we can use transform vector. So it transforms our vector from local to world, I think it's from world to local. And again, on the y-axis we can go transform vector and set it to 1 in the y from world to local. Now this way our rotational axis that's informing our rotate around point is now again in world space because we're transforming it from world space into local. So as you can see, now as we spin around, it's no longer rotating our character, no longer rotating the orbiting particle. Our orbiting particle is rotating as we need it, and our forward-facing particle is still locked with our character and rotating with our character. So I hope this was helpful. There's just a few different ways that we can fix the rotational problems. Now rotations are pretty complicated and they can be a bit annoying. So just take your time, practice, you'll get it eventually. If this was helpful, let me know. If you've got any other questions, I can definitely make some short tutorials and some tips going over how to address some common problems in Niagara. Again, I hope this was helpful. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you've got any feedback, let me know. And this has been Jordan from VFX Vault, and thanks for watching.